Yo, it's your man with the plan, Martial Arts here to talk about Trials of Cold Steel 3. So, maybe like a month or two ago, I did a video about Trials of Cold Steel 1 and 2, and I really didn't go too much into detail how I felt about those two games, but I really loved them. I think I liked 1 more than 2, and I think this one, 3, is my favorite one so far. And I just kind of want to talk about my experience with 3 and what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and see if you guys have the same sentiments about things. I am on the cusp of playing a little bit of 4 right now, but I kind of stopped just to make sure when I did this video, I don't spoil anything that like unconsciously spoil anything. So I stopped on 4 on the first act, and I'm really curious to see if my opinions line up with yours, or if it's something that only I experience going through the game. But I kind of wanted to start talking about the story of Trials of Cold Steel 3 and just my overall feel of it. I really like the stories of Trials of Cold Steel 3. I think it was a step above the one from 1 and 2, in my opinion. Of course, people probably think 2 is the best. I heard a lot of people think 2 is the best. Some people think 2 is the worst. But 2 is okay. I really liked. I think the story really benefited from how 1 and 2 already kind of set up the world and the characters and stuff. So you really had, unlike 1 where I felt like, oh my god, they're spending all this time on characters, they're spending all this time on setting things up. And then 2 where they're like, okay, they're still kind of setting things up, and it still doesn't feel like it's getting into the meat and potatoes of what they really want to tell us yet. 3 feels like the step after all the explaining and all the details, and of course they're still explaining details, but it's not much. The old ones used to be a lot of explaining and a lot of details, and now it's like, now that they got that out the way, now they just kind of have a normal RPG feel where they kind of explain major things, and you just kind of already know the stuff from the previous games that kind of fill in the details. And I gotta say, I think the smaller cast also has a big part to play on how much I enjoyed this game, because since the cast was like at least, I think, almost half of what the original cast was, you felt like everybody had their time to shine, and you got to see the dynamic between all the different characters. And Rean wasn't always there to interrupt the flow, because he's the main character. The main characters always interrupt the flow of relationships in a game, especially in an RPG. And it just seemed like the characters had good synergy, and like even characters I didn't like at the very beginning for a long time, like Vander. I didn't like Vander that much at all. He was actually my least favorite through the story. I know some people, I think, really like him, so I hopefully I didn't hurt your feelings, but he was very about his family, and that's his defining trait through most of the story. But as the story went on, he got better. Juna, honestly, I think was like my favorite out of the new cast. Juna was amazing. I like Ash, I like Musse, and of course I like Altina. Altina, I think she benefited because she was part of the original story, so I think it helped to keep, like, it wasn't just like you were just teaching a whole bunch of fresh new faces, and there was like, what, huh, what's happening, huh, what? You had like 2 or 3 people that kind of got what was going on, so it helped that you didn't have to explain things over in the story again for the most part. And I think I also like just how the character have grown so far. All the characters have grown. It was just nice to see like them develop, and they still have their little quirks here and there, but they were still very mature, a lot more mature than you think they would have been in the past. The time span of 3 years. And it just felt like, unlike the previous 2 games, there was a lot more. The threat felt a lot more menacing in this one. And that was like the biggest plus, because in the old games it felt like you were getting saved a lot. I know they made that thing, and I know a lot of people told me that's part of the appeal of Trials of Cold Steel, like because you're growing up. But I did think they did get saved a lot in the original, and they still do it here, but it's not as blatant as it was in the original. And that's what I really liked about the story in general. But I do have some things I didn't like about the story, and don't hate me for these, because this can just be my personal opinion. This can just be, you can just blow this off, but this is something I did feel when I was going through the story. And the first con is that, and this is something I probably had that has a problem I had with Trials Cold Steel as a whole, and I don't know if it's the whole series does this, the games before the Cold Steel series, or the Cold Steel chapter in the series of the Legend of Heroes. Characters really don't get, often don't get a lot of consequences for their actions in the story, I realize. It feels like for a character to really be in trouble, their back has to really be against the wall, or else you feel like they just don't get any type of comeuppance for anything they do. Like, you feel like somebody can literally like kill a whole village, and the one side, like, either a hero could kill a whole village, and the villains will just completely just be like, whatever, and the villains could literally be like kill like a team member of the heroes, and they'll literally be whatever, join our side, or or we, I don't blame you, whatever, he was an asshole. And this feels like there's no, like, you feel like everybody's just kind of going through the motions sometimes, and throughout Cold Steel. Is this something you feel through Cold Steel? It's just like, I burned down a whole village. Great. Let's be friends. I forgive you for that. No even bad blood. And you just feel it in Cold Steel. And the second thing is, this is something I want to talk about a little bit. I see in Cold Steel 3. It's that as you go through Cold Steel 3, you see that the villains are very powerful. They are very, very powerful. And I think it actually was one of the negatives of adding the other group of students, and not students, but the other group of protagonists from past games into this game. I think they probably should just stick with the SSS and then not gone as far back. But I think they always go far back for like the protagonists. But it felt like they started adding villains from everywhere and from the past games into this game, and it just felt like the villain side was so powerful. And like, just like one of the characters said in the game, it's like halfway through the game, I think they were like, now you're at the point where you're starting to go with legends, demons, and gods. And keep in mind that even the main villain himself is an absolute genius powerhouse. Like him by himself can probably wipe out like a whole platoon in the army. Or even more than that. He's just a powerhouse in both bronze, brains, and just skill and experience. And so are his allies. And then you have Rean and everybody in the new Class 7 who are just only a few months into school, going through the game. And, a year of school or half a year of school. And then you have the old Class 7 who's only really 3 years of some of them are a little bit more versed in combat, but 3 years of experience, and you see the big power gap in between the two. Like, these people, the villains have been like villains in the franchise forever. They have been, from what I had my friend help me do some research on this, because I didn't play the previous games, keep in mind, so I might get some of this wrong, but those villains have been here forever. And like, I try to remember, like the Iron Maiden, she's like a villain. She's number one, she's already known to be powerful, and she's like a villain that's all, like, they've already tried to go against one time in a different game. And it's just like, it just felt like all these villains are so freaking powerful, and the heroes feel like they just don't match up. And you start seeing halfway through the game, they start kind of giving them a artificial boost, regardless if it's through training, through storytelling, through writing, through experience, through something. They start giving them artificial boosts to catch up to the villains. But even with the artificial boost, you still see the gap between experience and skill. It's like even Power of Friendship can't even like bridge that gap, because it's not even close between these heroes and villains. And I can see that being a little bit of a problem in 4, because it just feels like they're outnumbered. The villains have more skill, they have more power, they have more experience, they have more knowledge, they have more, it's just like more manpower, they have more speed. They own the playing field all the way through, and it just feels weird that how the heroes are going to get through it in 4. I don't know. And something tells me it's not going to be as clean cut as people probably want it to be, because it's just how powerful they are. And that kind of goes into my last complaint with the story so far. I feel like the new class 7 are just completely, they feel like they're a little too, they kind of gave the main story made it seem like they advanced so quick to match up to the old class 7. The new class 7 just feels like there's no way that Juna, and maybe Altina, and maybe Musse, and maybe Ash, but like the other half of the class, you know, Vander, Juna, and you know, like I said, maybe Ash. Like I think Ash is probably on the side where he isn't as powerful as the other side of the class 7, but it just feels like like half the class 7 is just not up to the snuff with the old class 7. So it feels like they're kind of like given a lot of leeway through the story, because they honestly, the new class 7 should be crushed kind of when it comes to power, and you just kind of see it in the story. It's like, how can you, like, you know, how can freaking Juna like stand up to McBurn? And I don't think that was a scene, but you know, you get the point I'm saying. Like, how can Juna stand up to McBurn or something like that? That just doesn't make sense, because they can barely stand up to McBurn in the second game, going full power with the old class 7, who had a decent amount of experience at that point. You know what I'm saying? But those are the only cons I had. I know those are some big cons, and I know that sounds crazy, but that's kind of just how I felt about it. It was just like, ugh, a big wall there. But other than that, I'd say the gameplay was so good. Like it encompassed a lot of what I like from the original and added on to top of it, because I feel like the order system really helped the game a lot. But I also think that it also probably hurt the game a lot, depending on your skill level, because I think the order system can break the game a lot. Because there's been times where it doesn't matter what difficulty you're on, like Altina's order is so good. I know, like, just be able to nullify damage, or I think, was it reflect damage or nullify damage, like, or as long as your character doesn't act for a turn, you get the nullified damage, and I think it reflects it, and it is just so good. And a lot of the orders are kind of like that. It's just very broken. And I heard from my friend that 4 isn't much different. The orders are kind of broken in 4. I'll leave it a little bit more, so I heard from my friend. But I think the order system is something they needed to do. I do think the first maybe 2 hours of the game, when you didn't have a lot of utility, or you didn't really know what you're doing with the order system, was a little rough for me at the very beginning. Like, I was like, because I think you're a lot more of a glass cannon now in this game. Like, I felt like I got hit, and I got hit again, and I got hit, and it was just like, it was instantly down the whole party. Because I didn't even lose that much in Trials of Cold Steel 1 and 2, but I did lose a lot in this game at the very beginning, of course, and then closer to the end, it was just like I was cruising. But yeah, the gameplay was really nice. I think the designs of the game, like the design of the gameplay, was just it fit the game a lot. I really like it, and I like how you can use other orders from characters that you aren't using. It was nice. But another thing I want to talk about is the character designs, because this is the most important for me so far. Because I gotta say, Trials of Cold Steel 3, and I think as the ones I saw in 4, have some of the best clothing designs for the characters. I've never, like, it's not like over the top, and but it's not just like too casual, and they're nice and fashionable. Like, Rean has a clean outfit. Like, if I can get like a like, if the jacket wasn't white, bright white, and it didn't look like I was trying to flex on people, like his outfit looks like one of the most coolest like winter outfits. Like, I would wear that on the street if it was wintertime. And like, especially in Trials of Cold Steel 4, you'll start seeing some of the outfits in there are really nice too. It kind of sucks because you see them in their uniform, and even the uniform is really nice in the 4. Just the clothes design is so good. I loved it so much. And the last thing I kind of want to talk about is the music of Cold Steel 3. It was just so good. The music for Cold Steel 3 was just, it was just a step above Coastal 1 and 2 to me, in my opinion. I know that's a very opinionated, all this whole video is very opinionated, but that, especially when it comes to music, is very opinionated. But I feel like there was a lot of synth, I guess that's what the instrument's called, where it's very whiny guitar. There was a lot of whiny guitar in the 1 and 2, and I think they did go for a lot more. It still has that guitar sound, but I think it sounds a lot more organic in 3, and it just sounds a lot more smooth. And I really liked what I heard in Trials of Cold 3. It was a nice, smooth sounding soundtrack. Everything fit the mood right, and it was just smooth. Like, it was nice. It was a nice. I don't think there was a lot of songs that I actually didn't like, because I think in 2 I didn't like some of the songs in 2, and 3 I did. I liked a lot of the songs in 1. Sorry, in 1 I liked a lot of songs, and 2 I like some of the songs, and this one I like a lot of them. And I really appreciate the people who did the music for 3, because it's a really good soundtrack. Also, I almost missed one point that I wanted to kind of talk about. I wanted to talk about how the overall design of 3 and how much better it feels than 2, because the design of the UI and how the UI works, and the traveling, and 3 reminds me a lot of like the Tales of games and like Persona 4. It wasn't as advanced as Persona 5 was and some of the other new RPGs, but it was just there at like where it felt like you could teleport around efficiently, you can go places efficiently. You didn't feel like you spent time traveling around the map. I felt like in 1 and 2, it felt like you spent a lot of time traveling, and I feel like they mitigated that a lot in 3. Like, it just, everything felt smooth, and I don't know how to say it. It just felt great. But yes, I really like Trials of Cold Steel 3. I kind of wanted to get this out of the way before I started talking about 4. And I gotta say, if you haven't tried the Trials of Cold Steel series, you need to try it. It is a huge time sink. Like I said in my previous one about 1 and 2, it's a huge time sink. And if you didn't like if you play whatever you don't like in the first game, you're probably not gonna like in the later games. And because it doesn't change enough in the later games for you to feel like, oh, maybe 2 will be different, maybe 3 will be different. It does have a very similar vibe all the way through the series. So if you want to play this series, if you're just watching this video and you don't know, you just heard Trials of Cold Steel 3, it was a good game, play the previous games, or please play the first game. And if you don't like that, I wouldn't recommend you playing the later games, honestly, because it does have a very similar feel throughout it, and it's a very different taste. It's very, like I said, it's very anime in the previous videos, very anime, even more than even regular RPGs are, and it has a lot of tropes in it. But I gotta say, it's been a wild experience. I am a little burnt out. That's another reason why I haven't got 4 is probably going to be in English. I have it in Japanese right in front of me, but the 4 review, whenever I do it, might be in English. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys clicking on this video. I hope you guys leave me a thumbs up and or a thumbs down. Doesn't matter which one. It just helps to know you guys are watching. Also hit the subscribe button and a little bell icon to join the rebellion, because I'm a lonely bastard that needs friends. And I'll see you guys in the next video and or stream. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.